How many lives do you think your team had tonight?
That just says a lot about, really about both teams, Rich. You got to give Michigan a lot of credit. I think Brady and I said at the end of the game, I think he's a hell of a football coach, and we both said somebody had to win this thing, and both teams hung in there, both teams fought hard, and thankfully Penn State came out on the winning end, and it just says a lot about our kids. We're a very resilient bunch of kids that care about each other and really love playing for Penn State. They love this place, and they know it means a lot to them in their lives, and they just keep fighting hard for this place.
Bill, what can you say about how Bill Belton played tonight, specifically maybe the patience he showed on that fourth down run to pick that up for the game's on the line there?
Yeah, that was a heck of a run. I thought he had some really nice runs tonight. I thought it was, obviously one of his better games in his career. I can't say enough about him. He's a guy that's grown up a lot on the field and off the field, and I think the world of that kid.
Bill, over here, you went a lot to the run in overtime.
Yeah.
And especially in big plays on the 4th and inches.
Yeah.
On a stretch play, almost what it looked like with an extra tackle in there, and then again.
It's like a C-gap play.
And the left, and way away to the left, on the stretch play on the winning play.
Yeah, they're not stretch plays though.
Well, okay.
Well, this offseason, you and I will talk about stretch plays.
I'm a little frazzled.
So, yeah, well, join the club, Dave.
Anyway, you ran the ball a lot.
Yeah, I felt like in overtime, I think that's a good question because it's something I thought about a lot. In overtime, they were a really good red area defense. And, we threw it on second down, we took a sack. I think what we tried to do at the end there was run it on first and second down and then have our best third down call. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. Then we had the 4th and 1 call. And so, we went for it there, but with the run. But I tried to go a little bit more to the run in overtime because I felt confident in the runs that we were calling.
And the 4th and inches play, you go wide there, and if you miss it, you're going to get crucified by everybody.
Yeah, of course I'm going to get crucified, but that's part of the job. But the thing is, I thought at that point in time it was the 4th overtime, I think, right? And I felt like it was time for somebody to win the game. We could sit here and keep trading field goals back and forth, keep trading field goals. I think eventually it was time for somebody to win the game, and I had the opportunity to do it. I would probably say that Brady, if he was in that same situation, he probably would have tried to do it. So, I felt like it was time to go for the win.
Coach, at the end of regulation, back to your coach, to your left. At the end of regulation, you actually held up after the touchdown. You actually held up 2 fingers. Did you think about going for 2 right then?
Yeah, I wanted to win the game there, and then I made a decision to go for 1 there. I felt an urge to just go and win the game right there. I really feel good about our 2-point plays, but at the same time I said, you know what, let's go for 1, let's tie it and see how it goes in overtime. Or I think there were 27 seconds left, and then they drove and had a winning field goal there to kick. So but I felt it. I changed my mind and went with the PAT.
Bill, you're right. On the final drive of regulation, the touchdown, what did that contribute to the education and maturation of Christian Hackman?
Well, those are situations, Joe, that we practice every day. You guys know that. We practice 2-minute situations every single day, and in fact, that one that we had at the end of the game, we practiced just the other day. I think it was 50 seconds to go in the game. Had the ball, around our own 25, 30-yard line or something like that, and we knew there were specific plays we wanted to run there, and we just needed the line to really block well, and they did, and we were able to come up with some big plays. So, I think Christian is obviously a very mature quarterback for being 18 years old. He's just a fun guy to coach, and some of that was training too, so it paid off.
Coach, all the way over to your left, all the way to your left. Anyway, CJ and the defense. Talk about the resilience of the defense and then also CJ's performance.
Yeah, I don't think you can say enough about our defense. They just kept coming up big, and they gave up a couple plays, but overall, I thought they played a whale of a football game. And CJ, all those guys. I was watching them close there at the end. They were rushing hard. They were making it difficult to run the football. I thought all those guys really contributed to the win, and can't say enough about our defense.
Bill, this was a 4 overtime game. You've coached a lot of games in your career. How many have you been through quite like this with the back and forth? And what does this mean win for your team right now?
Yeah, it's a big win for us. It means a lot. You beat a really good Michigan team, 5-0. you're 3-2 coming off of, a bad loss. I think it says a lot about these kids. It says a lot about this coaching staff. These coaches here who came back to work on Sunday and tried to put together a good game plan, and our kids went out and tried the best they could to execute it. I've never been in a game like this, Josh, so this is the first for me. I've been in overtime games, obviously in the National Football League, but I've never been in a 4 overtime game.
Bill, there's a lot of talk about, you guys with getting that number 2 receiver last week. Brandon Felder had 2 touchdowns about 4 hours ago. What did he kind of do today that really impressed you, and what does he mean to this team moving forward?
Well, he means a lot. He's a veteran receiver who's played a lot of football for us and made a lot of big catches, and he hurt his ankle last week and couldn't play against Indiana. And it was just good to have him back because he's a veteran presence. He's played a lot of football. He's a senior. He knows how to run routes. He's been in front of 100,000 people, so it's good to have him in there, and he did. He came up with some big plays early on for us today.
Bill, what does it say about Allen Robinson to make the 2 plays that he made at the end of regulation, the one on the sideline and the one down at the goal line?
Yeah, well, I think, Rich, he's a great kid. He was frustrated during the game because, the ball wasn't going to him. And then I tried to manufacture a play to him with a reverse, and, that didn't work out too good. And so, we're trying to get him the ball in certain times, and other times it's like I said last week, it's the read of the play. And what it says about Allen is that he never quits, and it says that about all 100 kids in that locker room. They never quit. It's not always pretty, but a guy like Allen's going to keep hanging in there, keep fighting, and try to come up with big plays when the ball's thrown to him. That's what he did.
Bill, over here. Daquan was talking about how low they were last week compared to how high they were at the end of today. And he said they were just mad and angry all week long. Did you see that from the players, specifically the defense?
These guys are resilient guys. I didn't see you'd have to ask Daquan that. I mean, he's in the locker room. I'm a coach, so I don't really see that as much. But I knew that they're a very competitive bunch, and I knew that they felt terrible about the way that things turned out last week. So did the coaching staff. We didn't coach well last week. We didn't play well, and we did a little bit better this week. And the players went out and played a whole lot better. And so I think Daquan is a great example of what these guys are all about: tough and resilient and never die attitude.
Coach, back here again, to your left. You got some guys leaning up against the railing up there, and then you had a lot of recruits here at the game tonight. I'm assuming that this atmosphere, and especially the win, it goes a long way in helping get those guys.
Yeah, I'm not really allowed to talk too much specifically about recruiting, but I do think that, I'll tell you, what I say. This is what you see is what you get with this staff. We're a bunch of, hard-nosed coaches that believe in a philosophy of football, of tough, smart football. You come to Penn State, you got a chance of playing for 108,000 fans. You're going to be on TV every week, and you're going to get a fantastic education. There's over 150 different majors to choose from here. You graduate here playing football with a degree from Penn State. It's really an unbeatable combination. So hopefully things worked out tonight in that realm too.
The 2-part question here. You were really able to get the tight ends established today in the offense. And are you ever amazed at the twists and turns that a season just takes me when you look from last week to this week? Just the complete turnaround in 7 days.
I think when you're coaching, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old guys, like, nothing should amaze you. There's going to be twists and turns. There's, these guys, look, again, I've said it a million times, these are tough kids. They love Penn State. They love playing with each other. The locker room is just a great scene right now because these kids really believe in each other. And they felt bad for themselves, and they felt bad for the fans last week. They know that they didn't play well, and we didn't, as coaches, we didn't coach well. So, they came out and they practiced hard this week, and that's what they'll do next week during the bye week, and that's what they'll do leading up to Ohio State, and then we'll see how we play in the games. But it's a fun group to coach, that's for sure.
Bill, in those high-stress moments of when you're calling 4th down plays or 2-point conversion as opposed to point after, how long do you give yourself to make those decisions, and how decisive do you want to be in those spots?
Try to be as decisive as I can, Mark. I try to give myself, under 4 seconds. I mean, I try to have a thought in my mind. Now, with that game there going so long, almost kind of the well runs dry on some plays. You're trying to, in some ways, draw some plays up in the dirt at some point, but just trying to go back to what I believe in, what I thought was going to be good as I prepared during the week against Michigan, and try to stick with the plan. And I think overall we did that. I think when we didn't, that was probably not a great play call by me, but I think overall we hung in there and tried to stick with the plan.
Over on the right, you can say you guys are resilient, and they are, but difference between winning this game and losing this game, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it was, anytime you win a game like this, Dave, there's a little bit of luck involved. I mean, it's not always.
Yeah, you know that. I mean, there's a very even game. And
Right.
yet,
When I'm talking about resilient, I'll give you a great example. So we fumble the reverse, okay?
Yeah.
And then our defense goes out there and holds them, and then we block the field goal or alter the field goal. Like, these kids were like, okay, in my opinion, the kids that I'm around here, they go, all right, that was a bad play. Uh-oh. They don't say, oh my God, we're going to lose now. They say, well, we got an opportunity to go out and try to stop them. That's the definition of resiliency.
but I mean, after this game, you had to be pulling for them. Man, I really wanted to win this game.
Oh yeah, no, I
Because it's a huge difference during the next meeting.
Yeah, anytime you win it, winning cures a lot of things. Like I always say, it's like salt water. Winning cures a lot of ills, and so this will go a long way for us. Hopefully, our kids feel good about it, and they're a resilient bunch of guys.
Coach in the middle. This game probably doesn't get to 4 overtimes unless you block that field goal in the first overtime. You talk about how much you work on that in practice and what that unit was able to do in that moment.
Well, we have different types of field goal blocks. We have long field goal blocks, we have PAT blocks, we have different type of blocks, we have jumper blocks, we have edge blocks, we have middle blocks. We work them all. Larry Johnson, he's really in charge of that field goal block team, and he does a great job. I thought he had some great coaching points there at the end for Allen, and I think it was Gino in there as far as the jumpers and getting great push up the middle. So we coach that. We watch it on film as a team, and I coach it. I help coach it. So we try not to leave any stone unturned, and that's part of the deal.
Take two more.
Joe, it seemed like you guys had an intensity level, and at least especially early, that maybe we haven't seen quite this year. Do you agree with that? And what does this win do to the big picture? Was it an open day? You have to get Ohio State.
Yeah. I don't know, Neil. I guess, as an outside observer, that's what you observed. I think this is a very intense team. I think it's a team that works very, very hard. I think it's a team that's a very resilient team. That was not a good one last week, and we've got to do better this week. That type of team. And anytime you beat a Michigan team like this at home, 4 overtimes, you have to think that that's going to help you throughout the rest of the year. Because there's going to be some ups and downs the rest of the year. I mean, we have some young guys playing and things like that, and you never know what injuries may occur and things like that. But I think these kids will come back to work and be ready to go during the bye week.
Last one. A lot of versatility from your defensive line tonight, 5-man front.
Say that again, Travis. I didn't hear you.
A lot of versatility from your defensive line tonight. Guys shifting around, 5-man fronts.
Right.
What is it that allows you guys to do that? I mean, how much of that is football IQ, I guess, from these younger guys like Brian Guy?
Yeah, we play a lot of guys, Travis. We try to get as many guys in there as possible. We rotate guys, keep guys fresh. Zettel started tonight. Barnes, they rotated in. They all had key plays in the game. Gaia rotates in. Dowry was in there on a field goal block. Obviously CJ had a good night. Austin Johnson. We play a lot of guys. I think that's important in this conference to be able to play a lot of guys on the defensive line, keep guys fresh.